Out of respect for George Floyd and the protests being organized throughout numerous cities in the U.S. and beyond, we felt it important to first acknowledge all that is going on in our country. Regardless of race, ethnicity, and national origin, we must all use our platforms to show up for one another, and especially to uplift marginalized voices. Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Amateurs. I'm Bryce Barnes.
And I'm Jaron Randall.
And on this podcast, we look to give some insight on how to become a successful college athlete and also potential career paths within the sports industry that you should pursue.
But don't just take our word for it. After all,
we're just a couple of amateurs.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode. Today, we just wanted to give you guys a little bit of background on who we are and what our overall goal is for this podcast. So for me, I know that many other, college athletes may share the same experience, but from time to time, I'll receive a DM on Instagram or on Twitter from a high school athlete with questions about the overall, college experience. How I made it to, become a college basketball player, what I did to get here, what my workouts look like, etc. I know that many other high school players may have similar, if not the same questions. So our first goal with this podcast is to help, amateur athletes navigate their way to and through college athletics by inviting other athletes on, both current and former athletes, to tell their stories and to talk about their experiences, and in doing so, giving some insight or tips on how high school players can do the same thing and make the most out of their 4 years. We'd also love to take that same approach to help athletes navigate their way into their careers after playing. I know so many high school basketball players or college basketball players or athletes in general who make it to their senior year and realize that they're not going to make it to the next level. And for some, that may seem like it's the end of the world, but I promise you it's not. Your life does not stop at, being an amateur athlete or even an athlete in general. And the saying that there are so many, career avenues that you could explore within the sport that you love and be just as happy, even more successful, and, have greater longevity, in your career. So, as I mentioned, we'll take that same approach in inviting sports industry professionals onto the podcast to give advice to, us all on how we can follow their footsteps. But let's get into this first episode. I feel like I've been talking forever. As I mentioned, we'll go through and talk about our individual journeys leading up to this point as student athletes. But let's start by, talking about, where our love for the game came from. So, Jen, you can kick it off. Who put the ball in your hands?
First off, that was a great intro into our first episode. We're going into, my story. My mom, she was into sports when I was younger. She put the ball in my hands, and it just grew from there. I mean, from her wanting to coach, my love for the game allowed her to coach me. And, that's the big reason why I started playing basketball. So she had me in, rec leagues, just trying to figure out ways to get her son better. And, I mean, she did a great job. My dad wasn't into basketball. So my mom took the load, pretty much with trying to teach me. I remember being in the backyard. She's telling me work on my left hand, stuff like that. So that's how I got started. So then, I kept playing. I played AAU for this organization called the Tigers. We were all young. I probably started playing around third grade, and we were playing up as well. So yeah, that's pretty much how I got introduced into basketball.
I mean, for me, it was my dad. He initially I started off playing baseball. His longtime, best friend Kirby Puckett, rest in peace. They grew up together, so I started off playing baseball, and then he introduced me to basketball, and I ended up loving that. And at one point, I had to choose between baseball and basketball, and I chose basketball mostly because of AAU. And Jared and I were actually on that Tigers team together. We started playing AAU together so long ago. But yeah, it was a lot of, days in the basement working on my handles with my dad, just watching games with him and, just building that love for the game. So, that's where I got my start as well. All right. So we talked a bit about, AAU and that was part of, our start to basketball, but it really doesn't get serious until you get to high school. Like AAU, when you're younger, you just, having fun with friends. You may start to get a little competitive there, but it gets real once you get to high school. So let's talk about, the high school journeys and AAU and what that was like.
All right, for me, starting off in high school, for the viewers that don't know, I went to Morgan Park High School, located in Chicago, Illinois. I played for Nick Irvin, one of the best coaches in Chicago. one of my favorite coaches to play for, actually. And I also played AAU for Mac Irvin Fire. So it was kind of a bit of a connection between the two, you know. So that was a big thing for me, you know, going into high school and making a decision. Although I went to Simeon at first, it was crazy going back to Morgan Park and, you know, dealing with that whole process. But that's really how I ended up at Morgan Park, you know, playing AAU with the Irvins and creating a bond with Nick. And, you know, I just had to make the change. So
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'll start with AAU. I played for basically every top, AAU organization in Illinois. I played with Mean Streets. I played with D Rose. I played for Mac Irvin Fire. And I played alongside and against some of the best, players around my age, some of which are in the league today. But if I could stop right here, and get some advice, I would definitely, you know, tell you guys, the big name organizations do sound great, but you gotta don't choose your team. Don't choose your AAU team off of the notoriety of the team. You don't have to play for the number one team in your state to get recruited and go Division One. It may seem selfish, to look for a team where you're the best player or the highlighted player, but in all honesty, you have to be pretty strategic when you're picking your teams. That's your high school team, your AAU team, and honestly, once you get to that college level, you may have to look into those, take those factors into account as well. Like for me, for example, my 17U year and 16U, I played, in the EYBL. I went to Peace Jam twice, and I probably played in front of every Power Five, coaching staff. But they didn't really get to see me play because I played alongside so many Division One players. I think that probably close to 100% of our team went and played college basketball, if not Division One. So my role was diminished. I was more so a defender, backup PG type player, and I had more to my game than that. So I didn't get as many looks as I could have if I would have gone and played for an organization where I was the starting point guard and had a bigger role and things of that nature. Now that doesn't mean you should not be a good teammate or accept your role for the greater good of the team. But like I said before, you just have to strategically put yourself in the right situation. When you're choosing the team.
hmm uh, can you tell us your favorite high school memory?
Uh, I think that my favorite high school memory, although I didn't have the AAU career that I would have loved to have or thought that I could have, had, um, just kicking it with you, Zach, who was one of our, closest friends at the
hmm
time, and really, all the players that I've grown up playing with and against. That was just fun. Our last year, 17 year, traveling around the country, playing together. That was just those the memories we've had on the road. Memories we still joke about to this day. So that's probably my highlight.
Absolutely.
What about you?
We also did pretty good our last year on that team, Bryce,
Yeah.
when we were in Vegas. That was the highlight for me for AAU. Absolutely. For high school, it probably was when I won a state championship as my sophomore year in high school. That was the big, probably the biggest moment, for me. A lot of people will probably say, when I hit 10 threes and set like the state record or whatever, but winning that championship, winning was the best thing for me and the best feeling, especially coming from Simeon. I felt like I had a chip on my shoulder. I had a lot to prove. I felt like a lot of people counted me out, and I wanted to make my statement, along with Charlie as well. He was someone I grew up playing basketball with as well. So us being sophomores, us being young, being on that stage and being able to, you know, win, they didn't believe that, we were going to win. So that was like, I feel like that put me on the map, put us both on the map, you know,
For
and,
sure,
the
bro.
rest was history. So,
Yeah, I mean, I'm literally just realizing now how young y'all were when y'all won that
yeah,
first championship. Was
yeah,
that sophomore year?
yeah, sophomore year.
Yeah, bro, that was crazy. Y'all were like the best players on the team,
Yeah.
leading the team.
We also had Lamont, Lamont is one of the best players I've played with, hardest working players I've ever played with. Josh too. Josh was a great leader, both of them together. And then the line, he had a big play down there. Torrey, Kane, Jamal, all of us together, we all bought in, and that was one of the best team wins that I've ever had. I mean, we were down by 11, I think, and we came back and won. So it was crazy. It was exciting though.
I kind of skipped over my high school, career, but I played in the Red South, same conference as Simeon and Morgan Park. You guys were actually our rivals, and that was always fun to play against you.
Mm-hmm.
Being my best friend for so long, but getting to
Yep.
compete against each
Yep.
other twice a year. We
Absolutely.
went at it a lot, even though I gotta admit y'all knocked us out of the playoffs every year. But a highlight
Right.
from just like my high school career was, for one, having the opportunity to play varsity all 4 years, which isn't common. But and also winning the city championship my junior year
Mm,
alongside Lawan Pipkins, who just
mm,
finished his last year at Providence, James Jones, who went on to play at Buffalo.
mm.
So we had a pretty good team too, had some success over there. But let's get into the recruiting process.
Right, right.
So what what was your recruitment like
Man.
from freshman year all the way to all the way through to when you made your
Yeah.
decision?
So, like I said before, freshman year, freshman to my sophomore year, it was rare for people to really have offers and looks being that young. So my recruitment picked up actually the summer of my junior year, my last year playing AAU, being in Vegas, being actually before Vegas, we were in Peach Jam. I had a great Peach Jam showing. So going into Vegas, I had picked up some offers. I picked up Western Michigan offer. I picked up Northern Kentucky, um, NIU, and just from there, like that's when my recruitment actually picked up. Now that I think about it, so
Yeah. So I mean, we go all the way through to like when you made your decision.
I chose my college based off of receiving a full ride to school. You know, you have to sacrifice that being a student athlete. You might not be able to go to the school you want, but we all know that college is very expensive, and being able to play Division I itself is a blessing. So me being able to just receive a full ride and my parents not having to pay for school was the biggest thing. And I knew that I probably wouldn't be able to go to college. Honestly, my parents wouldn't be able to afford it. So I just chose a school that I thought academically, they had my major. It was I took my visits and all that. So the two schools that I was deciding between were Northern Kentucky and Western Michigan. I really like Northern Kentucky a lot.
Yeah.
They had a great campus. They had just went from D2 to D1, but
D1, yeah.
right, but they were the only program, no football team, so they were getting a lot of love.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a great experience. I seen Tyler Eulis was on my visit. He was up there playing a lot with Northern Kentucky players. I mean, in that year they went to the tournament.
Yeah.
To make a long story short, I ended up choosing Western Michigan. I felt like it was somewhere where I could see myself playing. The style, Coach Hawk, he had been there for a long time. The players, Tom, I'm Bryce. I mean, I met so many people that became, some of my closest friends now today. So, I mean, that's how I ended up choosing the school that I went to.
Yeah. I mean,
You,
I was actually shocked when you committed to Western Michigan because I
yeah.
remember you went on a Northern Kentucky visit. You loved it. Your mom seems to love it, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, he's about to commit.
Mm-hmm.
And we would have played in the same conference. So that would have been crazy playing in the same conference as my best friend through high school
Yeah.
and college. And like you said, they ended up going to the tournament, and
Mm-hmm.
crazy enough, we were the team that they beat in the conference tournament to go to the NCAA tournament. So that would have been, crazy.
Crazy.
But
We
my
also had
recruitment.
a chance to play each other though.
Oh yeah. We'll get into
Yeah.
that later
Right.
probably. But we
Right.
did play
Right.
each other still in college.
Right.
Um, but my recruitment was kind of crazy. The first off, I got I got my first college offer after my freshman year, after the freshman season. So the summer going into my sophomore year, from a mid major, and of course, when you get your first offer, especially as a freshman, we like, okay, so that's freshman year. So
Yeah.
like, what is this going to look like moving forward?
Right.
And
I
yeah, I hit a
remember
brick
that too.
wall. I hit a brick wall, bro. I didn't get another call, letter, nothing until junior year. Um,
Mm.
so that was tough, and I went through a lot mentally. Through that time, there were points where I didn't even know if I still wanted to play basketball. It's tough as a high school player. You don't really
Mm-hmm.
you know You go through a lot. You go through a lot of ups and downs, basically.
Absolutely.
But you know, after my junior season, or towards the end of my junior season, I started getting, you know, more interest, and then during the live period that summer, I started getting, you know, a whole lot of calls, texts from coaches, but they really weren't offering. And I know that a lot of you high school players may, you know, have gone through that same experience of getting the calls and getting excited, but then, you know, it never goes anywhere. But you know, eventually, I got to a point in my senior season. I had a really good senior season. I ended up finishing, I think, all city, like second team or something like that.
Yeah, that's a big accomplishment too.
Yeah,
Chicago is a tough city for basketball.
for sure, especially in the Red South. But throughout my senior season, there was a point in time where my family and I just we felt that it was best that I, you know, didn't finish the season out with my team and just chose from the schools that I had already, you know, had offers from. And at that point, my best decision, my best you know, the best situation for me out of those, you know, the handful of schools was UWM, University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. So I ended up committing there, and I'll get into, you know, specifics with what happened, you know, going into my freshman year. But when you look back and you know, and you think about all the things that you know now with, you know, college and playing, you know, college ball and the recruiting process, and you know, being almost 4 years removed from that now, how would you approach recruiting now if you were to do it again?
Knowing what I know now, I might would have waited. I know I know it's a big risk. I mean, you know, I committed in the early part of the you know, stage of my senior year. It's 2 signing periods, by the way, if you guys didn't know. But I actually committed, you know, early, and I don't think that it was a bad thing, but you just never know what could have happened. I actually had a great senior year as well, and you know, you just never know what schools could have came on you, but you also taking a big risk because what if the schools that you had end up, you know, going for someone else? So I mean, I think I would have made that risk. I would have took that gamble looking back.
For me, I'd say the same thing. I wouldn't have pulled the trigger so fast. I think that, especially as a mid-major player, it's not like you're a Zion Williamson where like college coaches are willing to take you regardless of, you know, who else commits. But, you know, as a mid-major player, especially speaking for myself, you know, as an individual, I felt as though I had to, you know, make this decision, you know, like pretty quick. I didn't want, you know, the coaches to recruit another player in my position and then that's it. But, you know, if I was to do it over again, I would definitely, you know, just wait it out and keep going. And at the time that I did commit, I had a lot of, you know, I was starting to get even more interest. Like my recruiting hit another level, honestly. It was still mid-major schools, but there were way more, and they were in other regions. And I did finish my senior year with my school. So I always said that I was just meant to go to University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee for some reason.
Right.
So that's
Same
my
here.
first tip. Yeah, that's my first tip. Well, that's, you know, that's the first factor that I'll take into consideration. Just be patient with my time. Along with that, just making sure you're 100% comfortable with the situation that you're going into. I kind of felt like I forced myself into that situation rather than me being, you know, comfortable with that and happy with that, 100%, as opposed to, you know, like how I felt when I chose my school for graduate school as a grad transfer, and we'll get into that later. And also, I would definitely recommend that, you know, you all reach out to when you're being recruited. Reach out to the players that are you know, playing on that college team already. That's one thing that I would do as well, and just figure out like what it's like going to that school. What's the campus life like? What do we have a lot of, you know, support from the fans and the students, support from faculty academically, and just make sure it's a place that you want to be for the next 4 years. But with that, I think that the most important question that you should find out is what the coach is like. I've, you know, experienced so many, you know, I've had so many conversations with people that go to college and they end up being in a situation that they didn't even know that they would be in because the coach is way different, you know, from the time that he's recruiting them to the time that they're on campus. So ask the players; they have no reason to lie. Ask them, you know, what he's like in practice. You know, is he a more encouraging coach, or is he, you know, on your back 24/7? You know, Is he a genuine guy? Like just try to figure out who the coach is, behind a recruiting mask. That's one thing. That's one factor I'd also take into consideration.
Hey, just to piggyback off what you said, with recruiting guys, they're gonna tell you a lot of what you want to hear and all that type of stuff, which is fine. But you have to do your own research. You have to, like Bryce said, talk to the players, get their feedback, and make your own decision. Don't just base it off what the coach is telling you. He wouldn't tell you reasons not to come. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. And each player, of course, is going to have a different experience, especially based on their role on the team. But it's great to ask those type of questions.
Mm-hmm.
But for high school students that are looking to make it to the next level, do you have any tips for them?
Oh, absolutely. I'm gonna just say a couple, and then I'll run through them. So first, live in the gym. Secondly, stay on top of your academics.
Mm-hmm.
Third, be unique in your own way. And fourth, like we said, do your homework. That's so important. And then 5, time management. So when I say live in the gym, I mean try to develop your craft. Be the best player that you can be prepared. You know what I mean? You don't go to a test not knowing the information. You want to know, exactly which the areas you need to get better in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I mean, by living the gym. Stay on top of your academics. Such a cliche quote, but it is so true, because you won't even get the opportunity to play in college. I mean, you have to clear the clearinghouse.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big thing. Like, staying on top of your academics is such a big thing. I've seen a lot of players have to go different routes. They were highly recruited, great players, but they had to go a different route just because of their academics. And they still ended up being great players, but it just they might have to do 2 years of JUCO, or
Exactly.
they
Something
might have to take a
that you can
different
avoid.
right. Be unique in your own way. I mean, play to your strengths. Be a star in your role. I mean, Dennis Rodman made a career out of rebounding. He's a Hall of Famer. And just do things that are always going to keep you on the basketball court. Whether that's being a great shooter, a great defender. The coach should be able to count on you for a reason. Why should he put you on the court? I feel like that's the question you have to ask yourself. And for me, it was shooting. I knew I had more to offer, but in order for me to get on the court, I had to display what made me me. And then when I get on the court, I can show, other areas that I'm, gifted in or whatever. But, yep. So my fourth tip, do your homework. I mean, we hit on this. How many people play your position? That's a question you need to ask yourself.
That's a great question.
Right. Who are the main players before you get there? Kind of goes hand in hand with that one. Who started before you? Can the position open up for you? How is the playing style? I mean, those are super important questions that you need to ask yourself. Maybe watch a game. A coach, like I said, might tell you one thing, but if you see the film, if he tells you that he runs a up and down type of offense, and you see him slowing the ball down, that's a sign. This is not the place for me. So, watching and doing your homework is so key with recruiting, the recruiting process. Lastly, time management. Ask yourself, what are you doing? Ask yourself, are you doing everything you possibly can to make it to the next level? Don't cheat yourself. That's the worst thing you can do. What does your leisure time consist of? Are you spending more time maybe on Instagram? Or are you spending more time, doing other things that might not give you the leverage to be the best player that you can be, or the best college player that you want to be? And this is what college is all about anyway. I mean, Bryce, you know this.
Oh, for sure.
Anyone. So if you can master the concept at a young age, then I mean you're
ahead of the game.
Yep, absolutely.
I can't stress time management enough, bro. Like you said, you're definitely gonna need it in college, so you might as well start now in high school. And just learning how to prioritize. You gotta decide what you want for yourself. Honestly, if playing a game all night, playing Call of Duty all night is more important to you than getting enough sleep to wake up and make it to the gym early in the morning, then you don't really want it bad enough. And that leads into my first tip: stay in the gym. You want to continue to work on your game. You have to identify. You got to be real with yourself and identify your strengths and weaknesses, and work tirelessly at your weaknesses. for small guards specifically, because I was a guard under 6 feet, at about 5'10", 5'11", you have to be able to guard, and you have to be able to knock down an open shot. So, and also make your teammates better. But specifically while you're in high school, you want a diverse skill set, but those few things, be able to knock down a shot, work on your catch and shoot three, um, focus on defense, take pride in defense, work on your leadership as well, because at the point guard position, especially as a college player, you're an extension of the coach. So you have to be able to lead, be vocal in practice, work on. This is one thing I did, I waited to college to do this, and I had to, have college coaches tell me I'm not being vocal enough. But just try to challenge yourself to talk throughout the entire practice, even if that's just like good shot, back on defense, like little things you might think that it's stupid, but it's going to carry over. You got to be vocal as a point guard, and make sure just having a great work ethic. Honestly, for me, there were, I think my freshman year and my senior year, I would actually get to school an hour before the workout. Like that's how bad I wanted to go D1, and I mean it paid off. So just make sure you stand in the gym, got a great work ethic, and you'll see the results. Honestly, my second tip is to make sure that you're going into the right situation. I'm probably gonna stress this every chance I get. Honestly, again, you don't have to play for the highest ranked AAU team or high school team to get recruited. Strategically pick your team. I'm telling you, strategically pick your team in your schools. But most importantly, stay in your books. Jaren said this as well. You have to pass, through the clearinghouse. It's student athlete, honestly. It's student athlete. You got to be a student first. College coaches, they can't play you. They can want you to play as bad as they, bad as they want to. But if you don't clear, you can't play. So nothing else even matters. I'd even challenge you all to try to get straight A's, in high school. That's impressive to me. So take pride in your learning, stay in the gym, and make sure that you're putting yourself in the right situations for high school, college, AAU, et cetera.
So now that you bring up the college experience, can you tell us what was some of the highlights or highlight, if any, for your college career?
The highlight. All right, so it's tough because I'm trying to pick between my freshman year. We went to the conference tournament, and we'll get into that next. What happened my freshman year, but that was like huge. There was no way we were supposed to make it that far, and we were on I think we were on first take. Like it was a big deal. We were the last seed in our conference. We made it to the conference championship. So I'm trying to choose between that and honestly my entire grad year. This past season was honestly like the best year, for me, sports-wise ever. Probably since I was young. Like the joy you feel playing when you're like a kid and like nothing else matters. You're just out there enjoying yourself. I felt that again this year. So those are my two highlights. What about you?
Before I say anything about that, I think that you said something that covers all areas of sports. I mean, whether you're playing football, basketball, baseball, soccer, like have fun. At the end of the day, you don't want to dread what you're doing. You're already going to have enough stress on you being a college athlete. Let that be your time to unwind and, clear your head. Let the court, the field, let that just be a space where you could just be yourself and, just have peace. Honestly, that's what I believe. For me, when I step on the court, it's just like I get to tune everything else out, whatever I'm going through, and I could just lock in and focus on what I need to do to help my team win. But to go back to the highlights of my college career, I would say I'm probably torn between two. My freshman year, we went on a 12-game winning streak, and that was awesome. I mean, we battled that whole season. I mean, we lost a lot of games, no less than like 2 points, 2 to 3 points. Like, what I'm saying? We lost a lot of close games. We were pretty good that year, and people actually thought the following year, my sophomore year, that we were going to win, the whole thing because we had pretty much everyone coming back. So it was definitely between winning 12 games straight and playing at UCLA. That was just the best experience that, you could have. And that's when Lonzo Ball was there. UCLA was loaded. I mean, the crowd just into it. Man, that was just a crazy experience. That whole trip, we had like a West Coast trip. We went to Washington first, then went to UCLA. That by far was one of the best trips that I've ever had, you know, being a college athlete. So,
That's always fun too, going to the big schools like the
hmm
Power Five schools and playing, especially a huge program like UCLA.
hmm
Like you dream of playing on stages like that, and to get to
right.
play against a future lottery pick
hmm
is just can't beat that. But
right.
let's start off by talking about our freshman year. I guess I'll kick it off. So my freshman year was a roller coaster before I even stepped on campus. The the coaching staff that I committed to, they were let go before I even graduated high school. So I think it was honestly like less than a month before I graduated. So that was tough for me. I didn't know if I would still have my scholarship. I thought I would have to go through the recruiting process all over again, decommitting and everything. But the AD, she reached out to me personally and said, no, you still have your scholarship, everything, and I'm extremely thankful for that. And I still could have decommitted and went through the whole process again, but I didn't. That was just it was a lot going through that, so I didn't want to do it again. So I ended up, of course, going to UWM. But one thing that I didn't understand is the importance of the relationship between, player and the coach that recruited you. Because the new coaching staff, as they had every right to, they continued to recruit and they ended up bringing in a player, that plays the same position as me. And, basically, I'm behind the 8 ball at this point. Coaches, as you will see in college, the players that they recruit, they're going to promote them, as they should. They recruited them there to play. So, I mean, it is what it is. But my freshman season was pretty tough. I felt like no matter what I did, I was never able to get more time. Um, and to speed things up, I was never, really given the opportunity, but I was, for a freshman, I still, had a great, year. I
hmm
only played around 12 minutes a game, but an average 4 points. But I, shot 42% from the field, 45% from three. But even then, I wasn't even considered, a shooter. I wasn't encouraged to really shoot the ball when I was out there, or really do anything. Um, so, with that, as a team, we were really bad, honestly. Like literally, whenever we won, it was a surprise to all of us. Like we were way too happy to win a game. Like that's how bad it was. And we finished last in our conference. But as I hinted to earlier, we almost made the NCAA tournament. We
hmm
were the last seed in our conference tournament. We were the last seed in our conference and ended up, going through everybody. And we didn't play, the bottom of the barrel teams. We played some of the best teams in our conference and beat them and made it to play Northern Kentucky in a conference championship on ESPN, which was like a crazy experience. Even though we lost, I got back to my phone and I had way more notifications than I was used to. People saying that, like I saw you on ESPN playing, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I honestly didn't even know we were playing on ESPN, but that was just nuts to me. The
Yeah.
media back in Milwaukee, we're super excited, interviewing our coaches and everything. Um, so that was my freshman year in a nutshell. But before I move on, I just want to give a little advice to anyone that's going through that situation where you have a role, but you know that you have more to offer. So first, I just want to say, do not, do not, do not, do not lose your confidence. Because without your confidence, you might as well give up. Confidence is to me the most important aspect of anything really. It transcends sports. You have to believe in yourself no matter you know who doesn't, honestly.
hmm
um Two, as tough as it may be, you have to put your team first. The last thing you want to do is be a distraction to the team. That's only going to make matters worse.
hmm
um Three, be transparent with your coaches, but make sure that you do that in a respectful way. So throughout the season, you might have opportunities to, depending on the coach, have one-on-one meetings with them, and just let them know, you know, uh, how you feel basically. But as I said, be respectful with it. Ask them how you can, improve your role. What do you need to work on? What things aren't you doing right? And you have to put the work in behind that too. You can't just, be going to a coach asking for more time or a bigger role and you're not in the gym working. Um, so and also in your end of the year meeting. So for high school players that don't know, I think this is for every college program. You'll have a meeting with your coach one-on-one before the season starts, and then another one after. So in your end of the year meeting, just tell them how you felt throughout the entire season. and ask him, what's his plan for you moving forward. And if you don't like that plan, then it may be best for you to, transfer and find another opportunity. But yeah, don't be afraid to, be honest with your coach and ask those questions in those meetings. That's one thing that I didn't do during my time in
Same here.
college. I just, I think that as college athletes, you 18 through 21, you still, you're an adult, but you're still a kid at the end of the day. So you have that certain respect factor, which you should. And sometimes we're afraid to speak up and say how we feel. But if you do it in a respectful manner, then you have every right to.
And also, they'll respect you more knowing that you're not going to just settle for anything. Now you put the pressure on them. So yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, and then my another point: don't take anything out on your teammates. I've honestly never done this, but I've seen plenty of times where two players are feuding and they don't like each other off the court because they're, competing for the same spot on the court, and that's just stupid for me. At the end of the day, y'all are teammates, brothers. So I mean,
I've seen that a lot too.
Yeah, exactly. It happens all the time, and that can break up a team, and mess up you all's, potential as as a team overall. Like I said, you don't want to be a distraction. And my last point, my last tip is to be careful who you listen to. In my experience, parents, friends, even the team's fans, even some of my own teammates were in my ear, like, why aren't you starting? Like, you're better than him. Are you leaving after the season? Things like that. And you honestly can't listen to that. They're not there 24/7. They don't know everything that's going on. You just got to finish out the season strong, keep working hard, and work that out later on.
Right. So that was great, Bryce. I think for me, going through my freshman year was kind of a roller coaster. I really enjoyed it a lot. I got the opportunity to play behind this one of my good friends, Thomas Wilder. We'll have him on the show as well.
Yep.
But he taught me a lot, man. I mean, he worked his butt off. He was one of the most hardest working players that I've ever seen from the day that I stepped on campus. I mean, he lived in the gym. Most college athletes have to be back in the summer. So he took that summer, and I mean, he was in there like 3 times a day. I mean, dragging me in there, the little freshman. I'm going in there trying to absorb as much as I can because we knew that he was going to be a pro. He could have left really after his junior year, but so my freshman year, it was a learning experience, and that kind of molded me into the player I am today. I always had that work ethic, but just seeing Tom work like that, man, that inspired me to want to live in the gym as well. So my freshman year, I played probably on average like 10 minutes or a little bit more, than 10 minutes, but it was a roller coaster, man. I was coming in for him. Some games I'll get hot, have to come out, you know what I mean? So it was kind of crazy. Playing behind a pro, really.
Yeah.
Like, what's the odds of, going to a mid-major and literally just playing behind a pro? So that already, kind of, it was hard for me to accept that. But I think that I handled the situation very well. I always gave my all. I always, I was talking to the coaches and just seeing ways that I could get better, asking them when I'm in the game, what exactly are you looking for? Just so I'll have, a map of, I'll know exactly what to do. And so, yeah, so my freshman year it was pretty cool. And going into my sophomore year, man, I worked so hard that summer. I was getting up at like 5 a.m, going to go lift with one of my, other close friends to me, Tim Brennan. Bryce we worked out that whole summer as well. So I mean, we were dedicated. I'll have a lift in the morning, workout probably about 6 every day, if not every day, every weekday. And so I was ready. I mean, I put on the pounds that they told me to put on. I was a real dude. I put on like 10 pounds that summer. I came back and I thought it was, it's time. I'm ready to go. I had that first year under my belt. So, okay. So to fast forward to, my sophomore year, things didn't really go, as I thought they would. I played, my minutes actually went down. Another guard came in. We both were cool. We both were playing spot minutes. I mean, you know, it's nothing that you could really do playing behind a pro, like I said. So my sophomore year, my numbers were, you know, they were bad, and it's just, you know, mentally that just does something to you when you got the drive. You want to be great. You know what I'm saying? You're putting the work in. So
Exactly. That's
you know,
something.
it's just tough. It's just tough. You know, I definitely show resilience though. That's one thing that basketball, sports in general, will teach you. Like no matter what you're going through, like is light at the end of the tunnel, and you just have to keep going. You have to keep pushing. Don't get sidetracked, like Bryce said. Don't listen to the negative. Don't listen to the negative thoughts in your head. Don't listen to people telling you you should be doing this, you should be doing that. Just be patient, and I guarantee you that it's light on the end of the tunnel. As long as
Definitely.
you keep having the same work ethic.
Definitely.
Um, so yeah,
Yeah. I
my
mean,
2 years.
and to go back to what you said about, you know, having to play behind a pro, I know that was especially tough for you after coming from Morgan Park, winning state titles, being
Right.
one of the best players on the floor every time you step out there, having free range, being able to shoot, you know, having an ultimate green light.
Mm-hmm.
Going from that to playing behind someone, having spot minutes, it's tough. I know it's tough for me. I wasn't even used to coming off the bench like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, high school players, you have to, you know, I mean, if that's not your role your freshman year, that's not the end of the world. You just gotta you know work through it. You gotta almost. I'm not saying to expect to come off the bench or not to have as big of a role as you did in high school, but you shouldn't be surprised if you
Mm-hmm.
do. That's not
Right.
common to come in and play 30 minutes as a freshman. Um, but to go into, you know, my next season, our coach, he actually got a job at his alma mater. You know, after our huge conference run, you know, he was able to have more opportunities, and he got that job, and he took it. And so the coaching staff coming in, the head coach, you know, he of course called all the remaining players. Many of our teammates left, as you know, players usually do when there's a coaching change. But he basically told us that he's making no promises to anyone. Whoever is, you know, producing and working the hardest, then that's who's going to play. And my eyes lit up because this is what I've been waiting for. You know, an opportunity to just, you know, outwork, because
Mm-hmm.
that's just in my blood, just to outwork, you know,
Mm-hmm.
everyone else, you know, in my position. So like I said, my eyes lit up. I went on to start basically the entire season my sophomore year. I actually battled a few injuries, so there are a few games where I didn't start, but we had a better season than my freshman year. We actually beat Loyola, and this was the year where they made that historic run in the NCAA tournament. And then we also beat Iowa State, which is, you know, a pretty, you know, big school, in their home opener by about 18. So we weren't
Mm-hmm.
like a push around team anymore. We were starting to build, you know, build our
Culture.
confidence and
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Right.
build our culture and things like that. So that was my sophomore year.
So moving on to my junior year, you know, I thought that it was time for me to leave Western, and you know, I went through a lot with that whole thing. You know, wanting to go back Division One, having that in my heart, like knowing that I am a Division One player, knowing that if I just get the opportunity, you know, I'll be able to show what I can do, you know, on that stage. When I did have the opportunity, when the opportunity was presented, I did make the most out of that. So I knew that I'm a Division One player, and you know, I didn't want to go, you know, no lower than that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when you're transferring, you have to sit out. And so a lot of schools, you know, that were interested in me, you know, they just didn't want to pay for me to sit out that year. And that was one of the biggest things. That was one of the biggest issues, you know, with me transitioning into, you know, the school I'm at now, which is Davenport University. So, you know, it was tough, honestly, that whole summer, just trying to, you know, keep working and trying to figure out, you know, what's next. But that's the faith that you got to have, you know,
Mm-hmm.
faith in knowing something's going to happen, even when you don't know what's going to happen. And so I ended up choosing Davenport University late that summer. And, you know, I thought it was a great decision. I was able to stay in Michigan. I still had a lot of friends that went to Western, so I was only like 45 minutes away. And like I said, I just felt like, you know, I felt like I was able to build, you know, a family with the coaching staff as well. You know, they knew me, they knew my parents.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I established a great relationship with them personally. So that was a big thing for me. And so I had to sit out my junior year, basketball wise. I had to sit out just because academically, when I switched schools, the credits didn't transfer over all the way. And then this past year, I was able to play, which was my junior year. I only played 12 games. I ended up breaking my foot. So, college has been definitely a roller coaster for me. I've only played, man, I haven't had that, great experience really with college just because I've been through so much, and then I've been injured. So that's just, a little bit about my story, with dealing with college and everything. So
I mean, I definitely commend you. It's like you have gone through a lot through your entire career, and honestly, I know for sure that your next season is going to be crazy. So I'm looking forward to that.
yeah.
But for my junior season, we had almost a completely different team. People, transferred again. I think that we only had three players, including myself. We had four players, including myself, going into my junior year. So of course, they had to recruit and everything to fill the roster slots. But we finished under, 500. We were just an okay team. But that year I graduated with my bachelor's degree, and decided that I wanted to explore my options, as a grad transfer. So my plan coming into college was always to graduate in 3 years. And, like as a, college athlete, I know it's not for every sport, but for basketball, I believe football as well, you get 4 years, of eligibility and as a full ride, scholarship recipient. So it was always my plan to finish in 3 and then get some of my master's degree paid for. So in doing so, during my process of transferring and going through recruitment again, I was honestly looking for a school that was respected academically and would challenge me academically and honestly prepare me to be a professional, and not on the court but just a professional. For post grad, I was 21 at the time. I'm starting to definitely think
Think
more.
life after basketball.
Yeah, life after basketball. So ultimately, I ended up at William and Mary for my final year. My final season was great, and it was, like I said, it was like honestly the first time I was 100% happy with where I was since maybe I started playing basketball. It was great.
And I can attest to that. Just seeing you just enjoy the game, like I said earlier, and it was amazing, man. I was just so happy for you, just knowing everything we both been through. It's just, man, it was just amazing to see you just be happy and just play. No worries, just enjoy it, and then you're getting, a great education on top of that. So it's just.
Yeah, I couldn't beat that. I mean, I can't thank my coaching staff, Coach Fisher and the rest of the staff, Samantha Hughey, the AD. I can't thank them enough for that opportunity. I couldn't have asked for a better situation. But moving on to tips on how to make the most out of your college experience. What do you have for the current college players or future high school players once they get to the school on how to make the most out of their experience?
When I think through this, I mean, there's a lot of things that you can say, but a couple that stuck out to me was, be yourself. You have to be true to yourself and your most. Don't compromise your morals for anything or anyone. Be your authentic self, and just be you. Don't go into college trying to be something you're not, or don't get sidetracked either by partying or like, oh, that's fun. Enjoy your experience, but just try to get the most out of that. And then that goes with being yourself. You know what I mean? Just knowing who you are, what you came there to do. The journey doesn't stop just by going to college. Like, you also have goals, set for yourself. Believe in yourself and your ability is tip number 2. Don't let a coach mold you into what they want you to be. You have to learn, how to listen to what they say and buy into what they're teaching. But at the end of the day, this is your experience. And you also have goals and expectations for yourself that you want to accomplish. And how you carry yourself is how you think of yourself. You can't expect a coach to give you a certain level of respect if you don't demand it. You don't want to look back on your career and say, I wish I would have. Those 5 words are a cardinal sin. Tip number 3, get the most out of your college education. I can't stress this enough. I know me, I went in I went in college not really focusing on it too much. You know, I was just basketball, basketball, basketball. But I'll talk about this later. But me going into Davenport just opened up my eyes to so much, you know, more. And then, you know, you're going to get a full ride with no college debt. Like, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
And I
And
don't think you understand that until, I mean, you get to college and you getting closer to that time where it's time to
man,
graduate, man. That's
right,
huge. That's huge.
it's a
No matter
great
where
feeling.
you are, getting that degree with no
Right.
debt is, man.
Yep. I was looking at this stat one day. According to the College Board, you know, the average student debt is $26,900 per year. I mean, that's crazy. You know, just you're getting a free education, and most of the time when you're playing basketball, you know, you're probably going to a great school academically. You know what I mean? You know, it's a Division I school, so um, just knowing that you have to take advantage of that and make sure that you know you have a connection with your advisors so that you
Mhm.
can graduate on time.
Yep.
Those 4 years are going to go by so fast, and before you know it, you'll be figuring out your next steps and journey in life. Tip 4: plan all the way to the end. I mean, this is so important. I like to think of it as beginning with the end in mind, you know,
Mhm.
meaning that, you know, you have to have a clear vision of your destination and then plan from there. I mean, this is so important. Everyone thinks that, you know, they're going to go to the NBA or play professional, but that's just not the case. You know, have a thorough plan mapped out, maybe create a vision board and literally write out a plan for basketball, whether that's going to the NBA or playing overseas, and then map out a plan for your career.
Mhm.
One of my coaches always told me that you are only one injury away, you know, from never playing basketball again, you know, God forbid. But you can't expect your coaches to figure out things for you once your career is over with, you know, because after you leave, it's the end of that. And, you know, they're right back to recruiting, right back to the cycle of recruiting players and on to the next group. And then lastly, you know, build your network. Um,
Mhm.
this is probably something that coaches should do more of and express this a lot. This is so important because you never know when you're going to need someone to help you along your journey. You know, all it takes is for someone to know you and open up doors that might have not opened if you didn't know them. And if you don't get anything out of college, just meet as many people as you can. I mean, I can't stress this enough. So,
Yeah. I mean, those are all some great tips. Man, I mean, I think you might have hit all of mine. Try to set some goals for yourself before you even step on campus, so that you know what you're working towards. I'm big on visualization and speaking, you know, things into existence.
mhm.
I know that not everyone believes in that, you know, the power of the universe and just, you know, being able to speak things into existence, but even having that confidence that, you know, it's going to happen because you're saying it every day. Like the more you say something, the more you believe it. So if you're saying every day, like I'm going to lead my team to the NCAA tournament, you believe that you building that, you know, into your mind. And I mean, your work ethic is going to follow that. You're going to want to, you know, live up to it. So
Mhm.
I say do this for athletics and academics. Again, I'm huge on making the most out of your, you know, opportunity academic wise. Uh, I would honestly challenge everyone to try to finish in 3 years. I know that everyone's, you know, program isn't the same. Not every business, I mean, not every degree, you know, finishes in 4 years. So,
Mhm.
but just try to make the most out of that. I mean, getting a master's degree is great, you know. So don't count that out. Just try to think about that. I know it's tough as a freshman to kind of think about those things, but try to take those things into consideration. Um, Also, use your resources. Darren just talked about it a little bit, but talk to your academic advisor. That's who I went and sat with to map out my plan for graduating in 3 years. The alumni system, like they want to help you. They literally want to be around you and want to connect with you. And they've been where you have been, whether they played a sport at the school or have just, you know, gone as a student. But, you know, they're probably doing maybe things that you may want to do one day or know someone that does, and they'll be able to connect you down the line. But you have to build
Mhm.
those connections, you know, while you're there. Um, and also make connections outside of your team. Also, I think that's one thing that I failed to do. It's easy to, you know, only talk to people that look like you or have the same experience as you, but get out of that.
Mhm.
You want to expand your horizons, meet people from all these different backgrounds. That's what college is about.
Mhm.
And also prioritize. You will see when you get there.
Mhm.
It's inevitable. You have to learn how to prioritize your time and your obligations. And honestly,
Absolutely.
that should be school, your sport, and then whatever comes after if you have time for
Yep.
that. But those are my tips on how to make the most out of your college experience as a student athlete.
Yep. Those are all great too, Bryce. What are three skills that you've learned, as an athlete that will probably carry over into, your next journey?
I think that they definitely will carry over. I think that a lot of things that you learn as a student athlete transfer seamlessly into just being a professional in any field and in life in general. But first is the work ethic. I mean, you have no
Absolutely.
choice. If you made it to Division 1 basketball and or Division 1 in any sport, you have to have a certain
Mhm.
level of your work ethic, and that's just going to carry over into your next stage in life. You gotta be willing to put in the extra work and outwork people honestly for what you want. And also the constant need for improvement. For me, I don't feel comfortable when I'm, feeling stagnant, when I don't feel like I've gotten better. My
Mhm.
dad used to tell me this quote when I was growing up. He would say, try to get better, try to get 1% better at something every day, and that's a day worth lived. And I carry that over into, my life after basketball. So, just continuing
Mhm.
to work on your skill set, whether that's, with your sport or it could be, communication,
Mhm.
leadership, all these different things. It carries right over. And then also teamwork. A lot of things, especially in today's world, a lot of careers are team based. So just having experience with that, even
Mhm.
if you play an individual sport, like baseball is considered an individual sport, but you're still on a
Mhm.
team. Track, that's still you might run by yourself, but that's still a team sport. Like all of these things, prepare you to work, you know, individually and with others. So those are three skills that I know for sure will carry over and help me in the professional realm.
Yeah, I like those a lot. A couple of them, uh, correspond with mine. My first one of the skills that stuck out to me that Bryce said, work ethic. I mean, you just got to have a crazy work ethic. Like, I mean, I don't see how you would expect to be good at something and you don't put in the work. You know what I mean? Even looking at the Michael Jordan documentary, Mike was the best basketball player, arguably that we'll ever see, and he just had a crazy work ethic. And I feel like that would definitely transfer over into the field, which we'll talk about a little later, in our fields of where we want to work in. I think being resilient, that's another thing, knowing that things might
Man,
not go your way, but just be patient. Just know that your blessings are coming, and just try to smile. I mean, that when you're going through something, that something is on the other end is developing. You just got to know
yeah,
that. As long as
can't
you stay
rain
true to
forever.
yourself. Yep. As long as you stay true to yourself and you continue to work, I mean, it's only a matter of time for something to happen. And then leading, like Bryce said, being working with the team, being a leader, being a winner. I mean, highly successful people get the job done. Let's just be honest. I mean, either you're a winner or you're not, right? So I'm a believer that in your approach to sports, it's the same as in real life. Meaning your character and your work ethic carries over in the real world. If you're the type of person that wants to sleep in, or during the break or whatever, you don't want to get in the gym. You know what I mean? You'll sleep in extra few hours or whatever, and that'll transfer over to the work world. You won't go the extra
Yep,
mile
yep,
for your job. You won't do those extra necessary steps that'll separate you from your peers. And I think those are the three things that I've learned and that will carry over
definitely,
to the
definitely.
my next journey. So
Yeah. So you talked a bit about your journey after basketball. What does that look like for you? What do you plan on doing?
uh my goals after basketball, wow. This is crazy because like I said, going into my freshman year of college, I didn't think nothing of it. But I've going transferring it to Davenport was like the biggest thing for me. It taught me a lot about myself. I feel like I shedded a lot of layers of who I was and became, somebody that understood who he was, someone that, saw his worth, saw that he was bigger than basketball, as far as that's not the only thing that you have to offer. And that which leads me into figuring out, what I wanted to do after basketball, which is, working for Nike in their marketing department, or in their basketball department. So
That's what's up. And I can
yeah.
definitely attest to that, bro. As your best friend and talking to you almost every day, I've
Mm-hmm.
definitely seen. I'm pretty sure you've seen it in me too. Like
Oh yeah,
we're in that
absolutely.
stage of life where you're growing and transforming into who you're gonna be
Mm-hmm.
in the next few years of your life. But I can definitely see the growth. And we getting older and more mature.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, for me, and you also said how you weren't really thinking much of what you wanted to do for a career outside of sports coming into high school. I mean, coming into college, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that that's one reason why we agreed
Doing
to
this.
start this podcast in the first place. I think
Mm-hmm.
that not everyone is going to be a one and done. Not everybody's going to be a 4-year player and go to the league. It's just not possible. So,
Absolutely.
but that's not the end of the world, honestly. And there's so many things within the sports industry that you could pursue and be just as happy, um, be just as successful, and honestly have more longevity and security on your career. Like Jaren said
Mm-hmm.
earlier, you one injury away from the end of your career. But why not strive to be like partnerships, director of partnerships for a team, or direct, head of marketing for your favorite NBA team. You can still be around a sport basically, and be successful
Mm-hmm.
and be happy without being on the court. But for me, I kind of had that luxury. My uncle, he works for the NBA, and he's done that basically all of my life. So I've grown up watching him, do what he does. I've been able to go to, and you have too.
Mm-hmm.
You've been able to go to different, events with the NBA, whether that's the NBA draft, combine in Chicago, or NBA lottery, or I've been able to go to
Yes.
All-Star games, the draft, and just seeing all the behind the scenes, all the things that have to, that have to happen to put on these, productions.
Especially
It's just like, I don't know, it amazed me. And during my time in high school, I mentioned before that there were times where I didn't know if I wanted to keep playing. I think that during that span from my freshman year to my junior year, into my junior year, when I wasn't getting college looks, I kind of came to the realization that like the NBA, being a player in the NBA just might not happen for me. So I
Mm-hmm.
started to switch my gears and kind of think of, things that I wanted to do within the NBA, and having more conversations with my uncle. So from that, I knew that I wanted to follow his footsteps, but I didn't know exactly, what area. But as I've learned more, done my research, things of that nature, post grad, I plan on, working within basketball operations,
Mm-hmm.
specifically international basketball operations, and eventually work my way up to becoming an executive for an NBA franchise, whether that's the GM or the president of the team. So those are my post grad plans.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to go on this journey with you as well. With us both
Definitely.
entering the sports business world, it's such a small world. Where we've been learning, we've been attending a lot of sports business panels during this whole quarantine. Honestly, a lot of opportunities happened with us for us during this quarantine, which will lead me into our next question. What have you been doing during this quarantine? How have you been spending your time?
I mean, you just hit it right there. A lot of personal development for me, whether that's reading. We've both been attending conferences, virtual conferences, based around the sports industry almost every week. Working out, just trying. I'm a retired athlete now, so I'm trying not to get that retired athlete body build. So I've been trying to, continue to work out. I've been reaching out to people for informational interviews, just to learn more about what they do, and
Mm-hmm.
more opportunities within the sports industry. I've also been learning how to cook. Before quarantine, I've been like, I don't know, the basics. I've been still
Right.
cooking like a college student. Of
Break.
course, I'm starting to expand that, and also just hanging out with family. We don't get a lot of time as student athletes at home, so getting time to spend with my family, my parents it's been great.
So, like you said, we've been attending sports business panels, reaching out to people that worked for Nike, currently work for Nike, trying to, build connections, with Nike, learning as much as I can, reading. We both read a lot, so it's kind of cool to read and, be able to be like in a book club with some of our other friends as well.
Yep.
Self-reflecting, a lot of self-reflecting,
That's a big one.
I told myself that I wanted to come out of this quarantine with having so much accomplished, and like Bryce said, we'll never have this much time. I mean, again, we'll never have this much time again. So
Definitely.
you just have to make the most out of this time so that once everything goes back to normal, you'll be so much farther ahead than the average person that was maybe watching Netflix or, just using the quarantine to really chill, relax, be unproductive, basically.
I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that. I
Mhm.
understand that, like this is a pandemic at the end of the day. People deal with things differently. But I was actually speaking to someone that actually works within the sports industry, and he told me he said basically, this pandemic is going to shape, people's lives. It's going to shape everyone's lives, but
Mhm.
only a few people will, have a hand in how and what that looks like because they're,
Mhm.
actively working, throughout
Mhm.
this pandemic to better themselves. So to me,
Mhm.
this is, I know it might sound terrible to say, but this is because people are dying, but this is for me a blessing in disguise. I've been able to, like you said,
Absolutely.
self-reflect, excuse me, and continue to work on myself. And I honestly, I know for sure that both of us are better than we were 2 months ago, and we still building. So
And I mean, yep, just to piggyback off that, I was able to land an internship with the Around 21.
yep.
Great team over there. We got a lot of cool things coming out. I can't really talk about, but I've accepted an internship with Around 21. And just from being able to attend those sports business panels, and like Bryce said, we've been doing our research. We've been dedicating so much time to our career that it actually led me into an internship, with Round 21, which is a sports company that combines functional art with sports and use it to, express. Athletes can use it to express themselves. Athletes, and pretty much anyone. I mean, it's a lot of cool items, a lot of stuff that you'll see. I'll be, promoting it through my Instagram pretty soon. But yeah, so
This is a great first episode. We just
yeah,
again wanted to give you
absolutely.
guys some background on who we were, so you don't just think that we're just random people coming at you trying to
Right.
give you advice on how to become a college athlete. We've lived this, and we know plenty of people that have in different areas, so
Mm-hmm.
and at different levels.
Mm-hmm.
But one segment that we want to definitely do on this podcast each time is a motivational quote of the day. So
Mm-hmm.
Jaron, to go ahead and kick that off.
So the quote of the day is: the greatest enemy to human achievement is the comfort zone. That's I mean, that goes without saying. I mean, we're talking about the quarantine. It's perfect timing, and people are in their comfort zone. And that's the greatest enemy to human achievement. I mean, I can definitely attest to this and agree with this quote.
I mean, it goes back to like what I talked about earlier, like the need to improve and just wanting to continue to improve and evolve. I mean, once you get comfortable and stagnant, that's it. Like, I mean, you literally aren't progressing. And I think that one way we've both stepped out of our comfort zone. I don't think either one of us imagine talking in front of people. This is
Mm-hmm.
our second time, our second project doing it, and also reaching out to people with informational interviews. It could be small things that you know, um, do to step out of your comfort zone and try to expand your experience and your skill set. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, man, I love that one. I like that one a lot.
Yep.
All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to our first episode. We'll be back with our next guest soon. In the meantime, while you wait, go ahead and give us a follow on Instagram and check out our website and blog.